Do you think a show like American Idol can ever find its legs again or be as relevant as it was?
Do I? It's interesting. It's still one of the highest rated shows on TV. So I don't know that it is. I don't know that it is not still relevant in the TV world. I think it goes back to us being so fractured as we're
media
very
consuming
fractured as a
society.
media in our media world. I know that the way they produce it now is different. You know, the executive producer, the showrunner of the show was an AP when I was on the show. She's worked her way up through the ranks, and now it's her show, right? And in talking to her, they do a lot more work to try to make it shareable. So whereas when I was on the show, it was a long hour-long show, a 2-hour episode. Now it may still be an hour or 2 hours on TV, but they work really hard to make sure that they're bites that can be shared on social media. And there are very few shows that get shared as much as Idol's clips do. So it still has a relevance. But I think if you're asking about relevance when it comes to creating names that do as well as Chris Daughtry or a Carrie Underwood, I think that has a lot to do with who produces the show and who owns it. When I was on, when Kelly was on, when Carrie all those names that you remember, when we were on the show was owned by and produced by 19 Entertainment, which was our record label and our management company also. So they were also producing the show. They had Nigel Lithgow there creating the show, and the people who came off the show would then become artists on their record label and for their management company, which meant that the show had a vested interest in making sure that those artists became career artists.
Vertically integrated
yes,
system.
Very much so. And a few years after that, I think maybe season 5, 6, 7, 19 sold its stake, and the show became mostly owned and run by the network. So the network had really no vested interest in whether the artists became big stars or not. You know, the network needed a good show that rated well, that now got shared well on social media. And if the artist did well, who cares? Because they didn't have a stake in them afterwards. Again, going back to being lucky for being in it when I was in it, we were on it in a time when not only did the network didn't really even want it. The network did not. It got rejected. Idol got rejected by all the networks. Fox took it only because Simon Fuller had it paid for. Coke paid, Ford paid. They got all these sponsorships to pay for it. So Fox was like, sure, you had it paid for. We'll give you the time on the air. And they got to run the show the way they wanted to. Simon Fuller created the show to create artists for his management company and label. And therefore, they produced it in a way that made sure you fell in love with Kelly Clarkson. You fell in love with Ruben Studdard. You got to know Justin and Clay. You felt an ownership. I mean, there was a magic to the way they produced it. And they produced it to not brainwash America, but to get America to like these artists, Fantasia and so on.
So true.
And they don't need to do that anymore, right? They're not worried about that because they just want to make sure they have a good TV show. And The Voice has been a successful TV show does anybody... I'm not trying to talk crap about it, but I don't think most people know who's won The Voice or been on The Voice in a year. But the ratings do well because they like the judges. So it's a different thing now. They're creating a different kind of show.
It's very interesting. But you can make the case that if an artist succeeds, that the success of that artist leads into the success of the following season. And
you could, but often, even with Kelly, it took a little bit longer.
Yeah.
You know, Kelly's first album did well, but it wasn't until Breakaway 2 years later that she became the superstar that she is. And so to them, they don't want to wait that long for somebody to have that sort of success and help their show. And they can do it they believe they can get the success by having big names like Carrie Underwood become a judge, or having, Bublé or whoever else is a judge on The Voice now. Those are the folks that draw the ratings, and the gamification of it is fun to watch. The the turning of the chairs. The auditions on The Voice is really no different than the auditions on Idol, except for they have those fancy chairs that turn, and we want to see who's going to turn.
I love The Voice. I also think the talent production on The Voice is superior.
Well, I'm not going to pretend I watch it.
No, I do.
Because I'm from another franchise, so I watch them on.
I think it's exactly what you said. It's about the judges, not the competitors.
It's about
anymore.
the chair.
Yeah.
It's about the chair spinning. And I mean, I do know there have been some great talents on there, but it is about the production.
Yeah.
And even now with Idol, frankly, I will say this: I don't think the judges are necessary, because all they're going to do is say how great you are. Like, you're going to sing your song, you're going to do fine, and then we're going to spend 2 minutes with the judges saying, "You were wonderful. That you're a star." And I just think, like, give them some constructive criticism. You don't have to be mean like Simon, but push them to get better. That was the blessing from our season. Well, while it was tough the way he said it, it did give me something to work towards the next week to do better with.
But it also, like, it daisy chained into it. You wanted to see if you followed those notes. It was a larger thing that was being built. Also, this idea of the audition. We got rid of bad auditions, and we've just done staged auditions. And maybe that's based on, like, who actually shows up because of, like, what they think the relevance of the show may be as it relates to their larger career. I don't know. But, like, give me the auditions at least a little bit.
Yeah, no, I did notice you don't see many auditions at all anymore.
I remember so vividly sitting in my TV room with my mom and sister, and it would cut to commercial right when you thought someone was going to hit Ryan Seacrest because they stormed out. Right. And they're crying and they're cursing, and their mom and their sister's out there waiting to see if they've gotten a golden ticket. Like, it's a big thing.
Well, I do think at some point, and I don't know when it was, people who were not good did stop showing up.
I know,
because they knew they might be embarrassed.
It tarnished their reputation.
Right. But I also think that we do live in, we're back to that. We live in a different world now.
Yes.
2024 is very different, and for all the good that we've already discussed that has changed in those intervening years, there's also a sense that we cannot criticize anybody, because you worry about offending someone, and obviously nobody wants to offend, but sometimes if somebody's not great, it's okay to be honest with someone. And I don't think that television audiences right now are as willing to accept that. And the types of judges they have are also not willing to dispense it either. I mean, Simon Cowell was 100% unknown to America.
And ruthless.
Until a few seasons in. Seasons 1 and a little bit of season 2, people didn't know who he was. That mean judge guy. Paula Abdul had an incredible career and was on the downcline of hers, so she didn't have anything to lose if she had been saying something mean. Nobody knew who Randy Jackson was from Adam, so these were judges who were willing to just be honest. Katy Perry has a career she has to think about. Lionel Richie, legend. I don't know why he feels like he has anything he needs to be careful. He's got a career everybody would love to have, but he and Luke Bryan also want to not upset anybody. And you worry because you say something mean to Ian Tongi.
He's so great.
Who was great, but I mentored him the year that I went back. He was one of the kids they brought into me, and I mean, yes, his voice would just shake you to the core.
And by the way,
that good.
Someone who played songs that he had already played probably 1,000,000 times.
Right, but that is why I wanted him to push him. Right. I just wanted somebody to say, put the guitar down next week and do something a little different. It doesn't even have to be a song that you don't know. It can be a song you already know, but show me you can do something a little bit more. And they never pushed him. One of the best voices I may have ever heard in person in my life. Sitting next to him, you could just...
Crazy.
It shook me. But I wanted to see him expand a little bit, just do a little bit more of something. And that's what Paula pushed me to do. I sang ballads nonstop, always sang a ballad. That's what I'm good at. And she kept pushing me to do something more up-tempo, and I finally did. And, I didn't have to do it every week, but I did it one week to prove that I could do it without falling off the stage. And then I went back to my ballads. And I think that the judges probably now worry that if they say something they might say something too harsh, and then people who love Ian won't buy tickets to their show or will trash them on Twitter. You know, everybody's opinion gets on Twitter and gets shared. And you know what? Sometimes everybody's opinion doesn't matter. I'll be the first to say it. That's why I'm not on it very often. I don't need to hear everyone's opinion on everything.